Hello, my good friend. I am joined here today by my beautiful girlfriend,
Hello.
and I wanted to do a spooky month. And for spooky month, I am going to be doing a game called Metro 2033 Redux, which is the remastered version of a game that was previously released. So that it just looks, supposedly better. But really, it's just an excuse to re-release it, and it's fine because I completely missed this game, so it worked out. Anyway, I'm really excited about Spooky Month, and I'm really excited about this game. This game transported me to a bleak, post-apocalyptic sort of Russia setting, and it really captured my imagination. Um, this is the menu title screen right here.
Our hope was to contact the government bunkers over the Urals, but
It's quite an
those
impact.
bunkers were the first
Yeah.
to be hit. At first, they didn't directly target civilians, and nobody thought this would be the war that would end it all. As I was monitoring the radio, I picked up a lot of weird stuff in the beginning, too. Siberia was silent, but the others did transmit, including the strategic nuclear subs. The subs kept waiting for orders. Should we hit them? No one could believe Moscow was not there anymore. Naval captains wept like kids on the air. The crewmen were begging me to check if their families were among the survivors. But I couldn't do anything. Some of the subcrews decided to get their revenge and went to their launch positions. Others reasoned that since the world was doomed, more killing was pointless. The subs continued to come back on air for a long time. They could stay submerged for half a year at least. Some of them were destroyed, but not all. I still shiver when I remember those days.
So I just thought I left that in because I wanted to kind of set up the world and what happened. And I also want to do Spooky Month, just because I think not only themes are fun, but I think these videos, every once in a while, can be a little bit different or can be spooky because nothing's really harmful in this video and nothing's too crazy. It's just fun to kind of hear some scary fictional story. But if this isn't for you, please use your discretion. Anyway, I've been looking forward to this spooky month for quite a while, and with the architecture and the diary entries from this game, and just even the dialogue, I really thought it hit all the appropriate marks. Something about Halloween that I think kind of stinks is before, like, you used to be really excited about it, but since they start like putting Halloween stuff up like in September, nobody's like excited that it's October, like the shift to October happened. I remember when I was younger, lots of people were like, it's October, in 30 more days we can, but this time it didn't happen. And I think it's just because we keep putting the decorations out earlier and earlier.
Yeah, I think so too.
And I think as much as people just want to sell merchandise, it really takes away from it. So I'm not exactly a fan of Halloween, and I know you aren't either.
No, I mean, it's okay. It's just not my favorite.
Yeah, yeah, and I thought, why have that be a thing? Do you get what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, why do that to each other? Why allow that? So I want to inject some fun into it. And Halloween doesn't have to be people doing weird or creepy things or whatever. It can just be an experience
Right.
and just a bedtime story that's a little bit more macabre than normal. Without further ado, we're going to read diary entries and take it from there. anytime a diary entry might be a little bit more, bleak or morbid, I'll try to do a Russian accent. As terrible as it may be to anybody in Russia or to anybody else with ears. To hopefully just mask or, make it less serious, just so that, we can balance it out that way. But again, this is all fictional and extremely fun. I really was taken away when I played this game, and for 2 weeks, I was just in another world. It was a fantastic experience, and that's why I want to share it.
I can see that was quite an introduction.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So, why don't you read the prologue, baby?
Okay. The tunnel grew colder. Miller and I were close to the surface now. Soon we'd climb up into the howling wind to find our way through whatever nightmares were waiting there. My long journey was nearly at the end, but would I have the courage, the will to see it through?
There's nobody among the Order's fighters who'd ever lived at the exhibition. Why would they risk their lives to save us, total strangers to them? What for? Perhaps they, just as I do, believe that the Dark Ones are a threat not just for our god, forgotten backwater station, but for the Metro as a whole. That I don't know. But one thing I know for sure, I can't watch those people and not feel admiration. They couldn't care less which station we hailed from, which god and which politics we believed. The one thing they actually cared about was that we were human beings, and we were in danger. When joining the Order, one vows to protect the Metro, the last refuge of the human race, to the end. Some of them believe they can prevail. A lot more think we're all doomed, regardless. But they don't even think of laying down their arms and giving up the struggle. Such were Hunter's comrades, and it would be the highest honor for me to become one of them. Can you please read 8 days earlier?
Life was never easy in the tunnels, but it was our home. There was comfort in its routines, in seeing the same people day after day. But since the mutant attacks had escalated, fear ruled the station. I had just turned 20. I could never have imagined what would follow in the morning that my stepfather's friend Hunter arrived at the barricade.
Day after day, our patrols go out to the northern tunnels, and day after day, they return bearing casualties, murdered brutally, inexplicably so. Even more casualties come back alive, but insane.
And yet it's only by sending our friends, neighbors, and relatives out there that we can keep the Dark Ones at a distance. When you run out of manpower to stop their attacks for far enough, when they arrive at the station itself, we'll be done for. I hear people talking secretly at the station that it's just as prolonging the agony, but that there's no hope for salvation. But Sokol, my stepfather and the head of the station, still hopes for a miracle. He insists that an old friend of his, Hunter, can save us. Hunter is a member of the Spartan Order, a battle brotherhood sworn to protecting the Metro from any and all dangers. There is nothing capable of instilling fear into the hearts of those men. At least there was nothing, until the Dark Ones arrived.
Chapter 1 let the journey begin. Hunter did not return. It wouldn't be easy to find an excuse to leave the station and travel to Polis, but I had given my word. I learned that the caravan was heading to Riga the next day and needed guards. I signed on for the ride.
Note 1. The task of defending our home station from the Dark Ones, enemies, horrifying, mysterious, and unbeatable, is becoming the sole focus of all our efforts. We've all but forgotten our old enemies, the Nosalies, Nosilises, and the Watchmen, and if not for Hunter, those beasts would have been unleashed on our hospital. I I cringe to think what would have happened should Hunter have ever arrived a mere hour too late.
Hunter arrived at the exhibition just on time. I like to think that was not just blind luck, that it was fate at work, and that it was the same fate that made Hunter choose me to travel to Polis with his report on the Dark Ones. It seems that I've dreamt of visiting Polis, the great, legendary center of the Metro, the center of our civilization, my whole life. The chance to actually make that dream come true just had come by, now of all times. When my home station desperately needs every fighter it can field, do I have the right to abandon my adopted father, my friends in an hour of danger? Where is my place? To them on the barricade, or at the far stations where Hunter sends me? I don't know for sure, but I still set out on a journey. I'd like to believe that I am summoned by fate.
It was the first time I had left the safety of my home station. It troubled me that I haven't told my stepfather the truth. I would not be heading straight back from Riga, but Hunter was depending on me.
Chapter 2, Bourbon. Riga Station was only the first stop on my journey, but the caravan went no further. So, before parting ways, we drank to celebrate our survival. The vodka didn't drown my fear of traveling on to Polis alone, but I was about to find myself with an unexpected and notorious partner.
Some say it's the voice of the tunnels. Others consider it to be a form of psychic influence. I know this tunnel, and it knows me. Let's move.
Isn't that incredible, though? Yeah, but isn't it incredible how they're setting up this world
Yeah.
and this philosophy of the tunnel knows me, and I know it. I just thought it was such tremendous world building. You know, the fact that there was this not this bond with the earth, but this bond with this man-made creation that we have to be relegated to.
Yeah, like this. It's alive.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's something like.
Yeah. It is alive.
Yeah.
It's a character just as much as anything else, and I really it really transported me, and that's why I left that little piece in.
Yeah. No,
Because
like
it's not just something that's happening. It's something that we want to happen too. Because like the Metro is just as comforting as it is scary. It starts out you're like, uh-oh, the Metro. But then the further you go, the more you're like, no, we need to stay in the Metro. The outside's even more scarier. And this thing that playing would want to break free as, it just becomes as much as a safety net to you.
Mm-hmm.
Back home at the exhibition, we always considered the station's dwellers somehow unlucky. They always used to be in trouble, be it their pigs catching some mysterious bug, their tunnels leaking, or their merchants getting too immersed in the celebration of a good deal at the market and drinking all the money away. The people of Riga are nice and hospitable, but they sure are clumsy. We used to pity them and poke fun at them a bit, for we were at the top of things. We, at the exhibition, knew life, and now I actually envy them. They live in peace. They haven't even heard of the Dark Ones. And you see, they live in peace. They haven't even heard of the Dark Ones. Do you hear? Like it's actually kind of fun to when even those who did never believed what they heard. But if I fail, the Dark Ones will wipe this station out in an instant, and these happy, clumsy people, with their happy, clumsy life, will be gone. There will be blood and emptiness. I've got to hurry. Just, I don't know. I was very much in love with this game when I played it. And, it was such a surprise because it flew under my radar. So this remastered version, that maybe probably is upgraded a little bit or whatever. It was really such a fantastic find.
It sets up a lot of anticipation.
It does.
There's a saying in the Metro: nothing's worse than a chance fellow traveler, but nobody else to rely on either. This bourbon guy surely is strange. Why would he need me? He obviously knows these tunnels like the back of his hand. Somebody told him that shit does not affect me, and he bought it. I don't believe it myself, and he does? Well, no use thinking about it. I'll be quite happy if he just gets me past the market without trying to quietly snuff me in a dark tunnel.
So, yeah, you meet this guy named Bourbon, and you don't really know whether to trust him or not, as you can tell. And, I wanted to leave some of the gun customization in, because the guns that you used were also very, thematic. They weren't, cool, typical guns. They were reused bicycle parts to make a gun, and airsoft guns that were rigged so that they were deadly now. Just more found material rather than your traditional guns, which I really liked. Of course, you have more traditional guns, but I really loved the airsoft one because you had to pump it up before you did it. So it was really tense because you could waste your ammo in these fights. And I gotta say, most games.
That's crazy.
Yeah, isn't it?
Oh my god, that's so funny.
So I've gotta say, most games that try to be scary fail when they give you firepower, because then it's not scary anymore. This game remained scary even when it gave me powerful weapons, and it because it put it in swarms when it gave you any weapons. But they're also hard to hit, and it's limited ammo. I played on the hardest difficulty, and I still never had like a hard time finding ammo and stuff, so it wasn't that difficult. But it was still it was just a tremendous experience.
The weapons are really clever.
They are.
That is so cool.
And it was so cool. Apparently, there's called Ranger mode, where you can't see your ammo that you have left. So it was really fun to like learn over the course of the first few hours. Oh my God, this is how much ammo I apparently had. Wish I knew that, because I would be in a fight and then I'd be switching, and I like that feeling of like giving up my favorite gun because it's useless now without ammo, and then finding ammo 2 seconds later for it, but I can never go back to it.
Right.
I'd never seen a market like this. You could buy almost anything. But Bourbon owed money to the Hansa sentries and was anxious to leave.
Yes, I'd never get here without Bourbon. He's at home everywhere and he knows everyone. Sure, as I suspected, the locals did have some old gripes with him, but looks like Bourbon sorted it out, which is hardly surprising since Prospect Myra belongs to Hansa, a trading union in the Circle Line stations, the richest of the metro states. The citizens of Hansa, their wealth ensured through trade with other states and free stations, understandably value profit above anything. I think Bourbon had betrayed their trust before, and now he surely had to promise he'd pay them back with interest. The only problem is that there's a saying, better to be indebted to the devil than to Hansa. He's going to have one tough time paying them back.
There are also factions here. So not only are we a splintered peoples living in hiding, but like normal, we really, we still fought with each other, and we still have different ideologies.
Wow.
Yeah, and yet another layer that makes this not only more believable, but more fun, essentially. It gives you reasons to fight different enemy types. There's lots of stealth missions, and you start to almost ignore the real life monsters because of the human monsters that you're scared of and that you're sneaking by.
Wow.
And yeah, and what's interesting about it is you can defeat the monsters, but you can't ever change what these factions think. Isn't that like kind of poetic? Like you can defeat the the actual physical fleshed monsters, but the human monsters you just hope. And I just thought that was
Yeah, that
tremendous.
is.
Filters, filters, filters. It seems like the stalkers never talk about anything else. They keep droning on about filters being all but unobtainable now. Not just the unused, but even the adequately refitted. That the refitted, being the bastards that they are, don't put enough coal into them, and that you have to reach in for a new one as soon as you finish attaching the previous one to your mask. But whatever they say about the filters, stalkers value them more than the bullets. No wonder that, too. You might sneak by on the surface without ever being found out by the mutants, but there's no escaping the poisoned air.
When we marched into the ruins of Moscow, I felt both fear and sorrow. But after a life underground, I also saw strange beauty in the dark skies and frozen landscape. So that's the dead city, grunted Bergen. Welcome home, Mariam.
From the very day I ended up in the metro, I've been dreaming of going back up, seeing that magical city of my dreams again, the living city of my childhood memories. But what I actually see on the surface is an apparition, a nightmare. I can't recognize it. I can't believe I used to live here, how my mother and I lived here, how happy we were, even her face. I can't remember any of it. How I hoped that her face would come back, even for a tiniest moment when I went up here. It didn't happen. I'm all alone, and I have no home but Metro. It's so strange to think that man used to be the sole master of this world, owned by totally different creatures, and the sorry few remaining of us have to hide like rats, like cockroaches in our holes in the ground. The fields are burned out, and will never bear crops again. The forests stand withered, blackened and dead. The rivers are like dead, congealed blood. Even the air itself is capable of killing a man in mere minutes. Our cities are in ruins and populated by monsters. We did all we could to never be able to come back up here again. All that we amount to now is mere marauders, searching hurriedly, like thieves, through the rubble that used to be our homes and steal anything that wasn't stolen through these 20 years back to our hideout, our Metro. Isn't that so creepy? We've become the things that we were. I don't know. We've become the skulking creatures in the night, essentially, and these mutants that obviously we created through our war and all of these things. You can get why, and I mean, look at this game. It shoots this gun. It shoots little rail pieces. Not only is it totally,
That is so clever.
not only is it totally awesome, okay, um, to I really love because you could collect. It was essentially like a crossbow. You could collect the ammo after you're done with it. But I found it incredibly thematic just because I liked that I had to go find the ammo afterwards, and if I didn't find it, dang it, not only do I have, can I take the shot, but can I hit it, and can I collect the ammo afterwards? You know, it elevated the game to something special, and yeah, I may have role played a bit too much and thought about it a little bit too much,
No.
but the fact that it allowed it made me happy.
Well, I think too that these weapons are sort of handmade from what they had left really shows you like what everything has been reduced to, just how desperate this is, and like that's just a really cool, clever thing.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated with the weapon.
And yeah, that's why I left it in. They're a huge part of the game.
The bike seat was really cool.
Yeah,
No, but I mean, that's really clever.
Hi there, Artyom. Yeah, I'm exercising, as you can see.
I really wanted to get I wanted you to get the sense of the architecture here as well.
Mm,
How faded and dilapidated these tunnels were.
right.
You know, you're really like a rat just navigating the
Yes.
maze.
Yeah.
I'm used to danger, used to the fragility of human life. I saw with my own eyes monsters that shouldn't exist. I walked the ruins of a city populated by the dead. But all of that was real, conceivable. The things going on around Khan, on the other hand, are way out of my reach. I feel uncomfortable around him, even scared. When he's around, everything, all I know about the world, people, death, even myself, starts seeming nonsensical. I have no point of reference, nobody to rely on but Khan himself. A random encounter, or perhaps not so random after all.
To say the truth, I first took Khan for a madman. Then I got scared of him, and now I admire him. There are things in the metro that I can't see, but that does not mean they're not real. If Khan didn't take me through these strange reaches of the metro, if he didn't help me cross the invisible hurdles, didn't warn of the mysterious dangers, my journey would have ended long ago. It's no wonder that I believed in him and told him my story. I have so many questions for him, and he seems to have all the answers.
Cursed. Khan led me into Cursed Station. The name was no accident. Its people were locked in an endless war for survival. Once this used to be a regular station, lived in, even prosperous. One of those stations where not only heavily armed fighters can survive, but also old men and women and even children. Then the mutants came, as if from nowhere. They were innumerable, the cursed. Sure, then it was still called its old name, fought back with all it had. But the means proved inadequate. The defenders were forced to abandon all their roadblocks in the tunnels, one after another. Then they barricaded the main platform and had their last stand there. They fought to the last child was able to evacuate to the neighboring station. The last old lady carried there to the last bullet, and when the bullets were gone, those at the barricades all stayed there. Then the cursed station got its name, from the saved wives and children of those who'd stayed there forever. And that is what awaits our exhibition, if I don't pull off my task, and perhaps not just the exhibition, but the whole of Metro.
There are many in the metro who hate the Reds because they're afraid of them. The Reds always go hungry, even though they work round the clock. They are told they toil for a better future, but year after year their lives get even more miserable. They fight with abandon as if not afraid of death at all, and their commanders just throw them away, spending their lives as if the charges were immortal. But they are mortal, and they die of exhaustion, of overworking, of bullets fired by their enemies and their own commissars?
Mm-hmm.
Their own commissars ordered to shoot them. Those retreating. They are told they are superior, that they are made of steel, not flesh, and that's why I pity them. What do they live and die for? The idols of the past are long gone, but they are kept in the dark about it. The slogans they communicate with are meaningless in the New World. They're prohibited from speaking or even thinking freely. Anyone asking questions is deemed a traitor. Anyone who says life's better outside the red line is a spy and a saboteur. You have to hide everything human about you and become just like the rest of them. But there are also people like Andrew the blacksmith here, people who refuse to abandon hope and who persevere. If I were in his shoes, I'd be long gone. Why is he still here? Is he afraid of being shot, making his escape?
Did you ever read those books that were written in diary prose?
Um,
Prose might not be the right word, sorry. But were written in a diary format, I guess.
kind of like Anne Frank.
Yeah, so, yeah, pretty
Was it
much.
Anne Frank?
I believe so.
Careful, damn it! 20 years without maintenance is too much even for Soviet military structures. Everyone watch your step, especially you, Artyom. Looks pretty clear. The control room should be there. Well, let's check it out. Norman, Vladimir, stay here and cover our asses. You never know what's coming. Artyom, come with me.
I mean, that was one of them, but there became this popular little thing to write your book like you were writing a diary.
Yeah.
And it just reminded me of this, and I actually kind of like it because sometimes there's these misspellings and stuff, and as much as it might just be an error on somebody's part, it adds to
Yeah.
I really feel like it's more, an actual thing that exists
I
that
do
I'm
like
reading.
that format.
Yeah, it's actually a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And it worked for this. So. And another thing is, so there's this psychological sort of terror that the dark ones impose, and imagine they're shadows. They're really apparitions that haunt the metro, and that are becoming they're nigh but undefeatable. That's why they're thought of, and people feel like they're coming closer. So not only do you have the regular old mutants now, but you have the dark ones that are just shadows, essentially. And
I imagined everything just as it was. There's something about these objects. They're Soviet soul. You wouldn't know about that.
their pending threat leads Artyom to action.
It says here on the top there's an air filtering system for emergencies. These systems were built to last, so there's a good chance it still works.
Anyway, it's just a fantastic, because they're more of a psychological terror, and the guy that with the ponytail that I showed you before, who said he knew the metro, he actually helps you navigate the psychological threat of the dark ones at one time. And there's lots of science fiction stuff that happens here. As much as you can go, oh, mutants could have happened. There's lots of just pure science fiction. Like
Nothing good, Billion. We gave these machines
at one
too
point,
much credit.
a ball of light comes and starts destroying everything, and if you don't move, the ball of light won't hurt you. But to the monsters, it kind of acts like a Deus Ex Machina sort of thing. And that, you know what that is?
No.
It's just a story device that's contrived that helps out the characters or does something with the characters. Anyway, it's probably a terrible explanation, but it's a contrived plot point sort of thing. Anyway, but it didn't feel contrived. It felt like because it was another threat potentially to us.
Artyom, there should be 4 starter motors over there. Find them.
It just felt like another living thing that we would never know about. We hurt Earth. We hurt, Mother Earth. And these were kind of the things that we let loose. It was
Wow,
yeah,
that's crazy.
it was. It's not wrong about Andrew. I just grossly underestimated him. He's not afraid of running. He just does these things that take much more guts than that. Andrew helps others escape the Red Line, risking his own life every minute. He and his friends saved lots of refugees using a network of abandoned passages and forgotten tunnels, which the Reds are still ignorant about. The refugees usually take this literal, and at the same time figurative underground railroad, to get from the Red Line to the Metro proper. But for me, Andrew is working in reverse, to get to the front lines of the never-ending war. The Red Line in the Reich. I'm taking the train which is delivering a fresh load of cannon fodder to the meat grinder. The important part is to know when to jump off.
Here I feel just like back home at the exhibition. These people, just like we, are hanging on to that station, to their simple homesteads, their meaningless subterranean life, and the bleak future, as if it has salvation in stock for them, all in vain. The best they can hope for, the best we can hope for, is a brief respite before we're all engulfed in eternal shadow, and still they don't surrender. I should go too. Time is running short.
The children of Metro. Sometimes I feel that they, who were born underground and who have never seen the sun, are a whole new species. This child has just been brought through hell. He stayed alive by sheer luck, and he's not falling apart in the slightest. He speaks calmly and rationally. I remember the day the station where my mother and I lived, then right after we went down to the Metro, was attacked. When my mother passed away, and the rats, I was saved by Sukol. He says I didn't talk for several months after that, and I remember nothing about that time. Nothing at all. While this little boy, perhaps the Metro will temper us, perhaps the generations raised without the sun, but also without fear, will claim the earth if I give them a chance.
I remember how happy I was to see Berlin in the empty city, another living human in this land of the dead. Where did that feeling go? Here on the surface, among the dead stones and petrified bones, danger oozes from everything. The mutant animals, the irradiated soul, the poisoned air. And despite all that, there's no greater danger here than man. As soon as we pry a tiny piece of living space from this hostile new world, we build a fortress here, not a peaceful colony.
We all wear impenetrable armor, even after taking off one's vest, or all of the clothes altogether. One still stays clad in head to toe. We are afraid of opening up to people, showing our feelings, afraid of someone understanding our thoughts. We hide our faces wearing gas masks, but there's one more mask beneath that one. Ullman, the indomitable optimist, the light-hearted jester, I'd only seen his real face when his comrade died. Tired to death, almost desperate. That's how he looked. For only a second, a moment later, he had his armor back, his regular funny self again. I didn't try to get him to open up again. It's not the Metro way, and I'm certainly not opening up for anyone myself.
Mitchell kills the belief in miracles, but teaches you to live without hope, and still I can't find any explanation for being able to successfully negotiate the labyrinth of the Black Station. Full of Nazis, mind you. Short of a miracle, as if I was led by someone. Was it my stupid undying hope? Or perhaps fate itself?
You see how he slowly, and again, you start to wonder, is this just, I love to picture the psychological effects of lots of stuff, as you know, but I always like to search for hidden meanings, like in Hotline Miami, there's lots of psychological stuff, and
Right,
the game Fury, is it all just a metaphor?
right.
And then this, is it somebody who's just going insane? Thinking that it's fate now? Because wouldn't anybody in this situation want this higher power to be pushing them forward?
Right.
So as much as it works to a game effect to put the player in control, it also works in this setting, I found.
Hello there, Artyom. I told you we'd meet again. It's a nice base the Rangers got themselves. I heard you received no help from Polis. What's your next move? Keeping silent, you are turning into a Ranger. Take a close look at the road you follow, Artyom, and be aware of how it might end. You reap what you sow, Artyom. Force answers force. War breeds war, and death only brings death. To break this vicious circle, one must do more than just act without any thought or doubt. Well, Artyom, I've been chatting here for far too long. It's time to go.
It's hard to describe my feelings at that moment. Exhausted, yes, but joyful. I had made it. Once I delivered Hunter's message, the rescue of my home station could be decided by those stronger and wiser than I. and my task would be over.
I found that him being so young and wanting to go out there also really worked because he grows up as he's going through the metro. And he's just, and the rescue of my home station could be decided by those stronger and wiser than I. To go tell somebody that can fix his problems for him.
Right.
That's what this entire thing has been about. It's been about a kid running to go get somebody that he thinks can help him.
Yeah.
For as long as I really remember myself, I always had a dream of visiting Polis. The hard and hopeless life underground wears man down, makes him savage like beast. And only in Polis does he manage to keep a resemblance to the great people of the past, the ones that had the planet in their pocket. Polis is the last refuge of the scientists, the educators, the artists, everyone who would be deemed useless by the other stations, the last of the culture and civilization. And the stories told in the metro insist that electric lights were on there day and night through, just like it used to be in our past. That's never to return. Polis to deliver on all the outrageous expectations I had. Vast, shining, clean to perfection, a real underground city. Its four stations united into one rhyme with the halls of ancient temples I saw in history books. By just being here, you start to feel this incredible energy, start to believe that humanity will once more rise from its knees. If there is a force in the metro capable of saving the exhibition from the Dark Ones, it must reside here. So finally we've reached the precipice of our journey. Come to Polis. Polis is where the council is, where essentially your savior is. These people that are better than you. And
who said that stupid and pompous phrase about responsibility coming with power? I thought that Polis was the pinnacle of all the power in the metro. Its guards armed to the tooth, its incredible reputation among any factions and stations, its stores of food and ammunition, its wealth and prosperity. Polis is the hub of the universe, but apparently this hub does not care one bit for some backwater station. The council didn't even want to waste time hearing us out, but after reluctantly agreeing to do so, it just lazily stamped declined on the desperate plea of the exhibition, and it wasn't just my request. It was declined. They did it to Miller, the head of the Rangers. I thought it was all over. If not for Miller and his people, the Rangers are now called on an order for nothing. They are a veritable knightly order, a state within a state, a brotherhood of people sworn to oaths, adherence to which they value higher than their lives, and the Rangers are sworn to protecting the metro from all the dangers threatening its dwellers, no matter what station they live at or what they believe in.
the council's decision shocked me, but Miller's plan gave me hope. Once more, I climbed up to the bones of Moscow to search for the secret of D6 and a way to awaken the horde of missiles. Rangers that you initially started fighting, like Hunter, or fighting alongside with, like Hunter was in the beginning. Hunter really acts as your like role model, essentially. And then you set in his shoes, you want to be like him. And then when you finally meet the other people, they're just as amazing as you wanted them to be. It's this realization that they're still humans, but you've slowly become one of them through your hardships. And that's why I have so much respect for the Rangers. And instead, they're kind of like like he said, a knightly order that can still give peace and help out this small backwater station that politics can't spare. So Miller comes up with the idea that they can still save. They do believe the threat of the Dark Ones are coming closer. They hear this plea and they decide to help. They do think it's going to affect all of Metro, and they come up with a plan to hit them where it'll hurt. So they essentially go on a suicidal mission to get to this last D6 base that houses these missiles, and they think they're going to be able to unleash them. But you can assume that they haven't done it before because it's not only a long shot, but it's also a death wish because of the journey there. During this time of need, they feel like now might be the last chance they get to make this journey. And they also trust the main character a lot, Artyom, who you play as. They think they've heard stories that, he's not effective like everybody else. So they hope that he could get closer to the Dark Ones and their psychological warfare. They don't think he'll be affected as much. It's very, very cool. The Rangers call their base Sparta, and themselves either jokingly or seriously Spartans. They do fit the part, mind you, ready to die rather than surrender. They are also few, just like their historical counterparts. Each of them is a seasoned fighter, worth 10 regular soldiers. But they don't just have the manpower to fight a full-blown war or stand against the legions of the Dark Ones. That's why Miller's plan is our only chance. Find a still operable missile launch site, command the missiles, and burn the Dark One's nest to cinders. If we pull it off, our casualties should be minimal, while my home station, whole with Metro, and the whole Metro with it, saved, seems like a perfect plan. But something's worrying me. There seems to be a weak spot in it. Something's not right. I can't shake the feeling that we're making a mistake. The Dark One's telling us that we're making a mistake by trying to think, is this why nobody's done it? Because, the Dark Ones are whispering, it's a bad thing to do. Isn't it interesting?
Yes.
Yeah. Your turn.
Knowledge is power, a worn-out slogan. Before the war, nobody probably ever thought of its actual meaning anymore. Knowledge was available to anyone. My stepfather told me a portable phone could answer any question at a flick of a finger. Nobody cared much about studying, searching for new information, and remembering it anymore. And then in a singular moment, all the information vanished. The phone lines went dead, the phone batteries discharged, and those who were reluctant to admit knowledge into their heads were left with empty heads. Knowledge became power, a precious commodity again. Too precious. Here, in the great library, more knowledge about the earth and people is probably stored than anywhere else, but each letter read from its vast vaults has to be paid for in blood.
Enter the librarians, these monolithic creatures that house the that live in the great library. And you have to get through the librarians, and this magical thing happens. If you actually read, what are these librarians? We give these creatures this funny name just because they were way too horrible to remain unnamed. One thing is certain, these are no mere beasts. I have no idea the clay the radiation molded these abominations out of, but they are definitely too smart for regular mutated animals. I see a glitter of intelligence in their eyes, and we do not know what it is, but they see it in ours. But if you don't run, don't fight, and just keep staring directly at one of these, something happens, and you get to keep your life, even though one of these can crush an experienced and well-armed fighter like a bug. Could it be, when looking into human eyes, they recall, however vaguely, that they were once humans too? Driving to Sparta, I had found the D6 documents, but Miller had not yet returned. Without his help, I wasn't certain I could get out of the library alive, but everything depended on it.
According to the map, there are several ways of reaching D6. Now the closest one is through the facilities near Kievsky. Okay, we tried that route.
Kievsky? I've heard strange things.
So if you read this diary the whole time through and collect these notes, something really magical happens. You test this theory that you can just stare at these monolithic beasts and live to tell the tale. And it's a really cool experience to just stand still and stare at them. And they continue to walk closer to you and step closer and then leave. I was like, oh my gosh, why did they leave?
Yeah, I know.
As long as you stand up to them and just stare and don't move. I've even tested it. I looked to the right and then they obliterate you.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Wow.
Again, it's so funny. Like, so instead of trying to defeat them or whatever, I really enjoyed because sometimes they feel around. It's like they're protecting the knowledge, and why would they be doing that? You know, it's just so
It's
cool.
very intriguing.
Our heritage, our future, how much power is here. With all of this, we'll rule the earth once more. We won't have to live like rats. Yes, with sword and fire, we'll win back the sky and the sun. We'll climb out of the dirt. Rebuild the cities. The metro tunnels will once again be filled with fast silver trains. Everything will be... yeah, everything.
So, you know, though, some of the notes aren't complete. Like, as you can see, it says note number 2, not collected.
Oh.
I didn't collect it, but I also thought it worked on 2 levels. One, I missed it, you know, and 2, it made it more thematic that we found this journal and everything that was written here. You're not going to find every page. Like, it's ripped out and missing. Where did it go? And really, the second reason was that I do want people to play this. Although this will feature spoilers, I still think this. I don't want to take away everything from this game. So at first, I was like, oh, I should go back and collect every page. But I do like not collecting it, so that if people want the full story, you know, like
Right.
at one point, like shadows start talking, and you don't know whether you're going crazy because you've been kept in a hole all your life. Is that what really these people are experiencing? Is that's what's happening? Not only are there real mutants, but are they going crazy? Or is there something because people, like it said, are going insane when they go into these tunnels that they shouldn't go into? You can get why I was so excited about Spooky Month. You know, I really have quite a few videos that I just think are so much fun. And I want to bring that fun into Halloween and October and into bedtime and into themes. You know, I think that's fun. God, I owe everything to him. If not for him, I'd rot in that anomaly tunnel. I'd never be able to reach the library if not for him. Miller would never pay attention to me. I don't really know what kind of man he is. I don't even know if he's human at all. Yet I was set on this path by Hunter. But it's Khan who walks me through it. It's weird, but even Miller's subordinates, who seem to acknowledge no authority other than their indomitable colonels, pay heed to this wandering philosopher and believe him. He has some mysterious power over human souls. I wish I could meet him again. I have too many questions nobody else could answer.
Why a church? Is it just the sturdiness of its walls, or do Miller's fighters believe it could protect them better than anything else? It's weird that even those who stand firmly on the ground looking death in the face, and by all accounts must be quite used to it, still seek protection from heavens. Rangers don't speak of it, but I saw many of them wearing undercloth crosses. I heard someone tell that the world upside down. Oh, the world I heard someone tell that the world turned inside out after the apocalypse, and while hell ended under the skies, the people had to find refuge where hell used to be. That's why there's supposedly no better refuge on the surface than the old church. I don't know about that, but these icons and frescoes adorning the church walls instill some kind of calmness even in me, as if we, the sinners who had the divinely created world destroyed, can still hope for absolution, can still pray for salvation.
They come to this subway running, and the subway pulls up slowly, and you realize it's on an automated system, and it's still been running all this time. So you step on it because that's where you're supposed to go, but then these characters that have nothing view it as fate, view it as something that they're supposed to do. But the further in they go, the weirder things get.
Oh my God.
There's this sort of abomination that's in one of the pits here,
That's crazy.
and you have to kind of go through this abomination, and it's such a disgusting little abomination that lives in this little hole. You kind of just feel like you are getting closer to it, and you do need to put a stop to it. But then the ending's like, well, do you? So some of it I was left going, as much as I understood that I was trying to, in the beginning, Hunter, as you can tell, leaves you a message and gives you a mission that you have to go deliver a message that's very important because the Dark Ones are coming and nobody presents it. He says he fears for his home as well as the Metro as a whole. And so the entire game is you trying to get from point A to point B, but tunnels collapse, there's different factions in the way, and you're thrust into this kind of short 8-hour experience-ish, um, just trying to survive. You occasionally climb to the top, and it's a hellish landscape, that's just gray, and it's utterly fantastic. And there's these winged creatures that you just have to stay away from. It's just absolutely amazing.
Somehow I have a bad feeling about this.
But that's the narrative of the game. It's just getting from one point to another and delivering this message. And the entire time you're learning more things about the Metro and yourself. For some reason, these psychological events don't affect you like they affect other people. They still knock you out, but they don't have control over you, whereas they seem to have control over other people. So soon you realize you are kind of an integral part to the story, and that's why he believes a lot in fate. He doesn't just believe he's saving his home. The further he goes down the journey, he thinks he's saving humanity.
We were close to D6 now. It was hard to believe that we'd found a legendary command center. But was it worth so many lives? Soon, we would know the answer.
Incredible, but these long abandoned galleries have preserved the technology in them, much better than any of the populated parts of the metro. The monorail opening its doors for the first time in decades started and carried us to our goal completely smoothly, as if serviced the day before. There is truth in saying that time eats away metals and stone, man and its creation, but our fathers built for the ages, and if their work isn't destroyed by their offspring, it's about to stay there for thousands of years. I still find it hard to believe that all of this was built by humans, not giants from the ancient fairy tales. It's not just me. Even the larger-than-life, ever-jovial Ullman noticeably shrunk when he considered the sheer size of this planet. What was this complex supposed to be? What was it built for? Where did its personnel go, and why hasn't anyone in the metro ever heard of it? A carpet of spent cartridges on the floor. One would think a fierce battle took place here. But there are no bodies or bones. What could have transpired here?
See how ignorant they are?
Once again, we're going to the surface, and this time we come prepared. Ullman's joking about our strides making the earth tremble. I feel like I actually felt it tremble. After all, we had come through, nothing and nobody will stop us. The enemy is going down, turned into dust and ashes, the way we also treated our enemies. One thing eludes me. Why don't the Dark Ones try and stop us? Are we coming straight into their ambush? The weird premonitions still pestering me are becoming even more sinister.
One labored step after another, we're rising up the tower. We come from underground, and we're storming the heavens, blood-clads all around. Like impenetrable walls, the steps are badly decayed and crumble beneath our feet. The wind seems to be strong enough to peel our skins off our bones. We aren't welcomed in the heavens. Our place is down there. I'm all alone now. I have to do the most critical part by myself. Nobody to shove that responsibility onto. Nobody to ask for help. The fate of the human race is in my hands, as well as the fate of the Dark Ones. And with each step taken, my assuredness in the justice of my actions dwindles. With each step I'm asking myself more and more questions, the kind of those which could be answered by Khan only. But Khan isn't here, either. I'm alone, on top of the world, and I can see things I couldn't see from anywhere else. Hear things I couldn't even imagine. I feel the presence of the Dark Ones. I hear them. Strange images crowd my mind. Echoes of alien thoughts echo in my head. I know the Dark Ones can enter the minds of men, driving their victims insane. Could this be what's happening to me? I must make it. I must stay sane. I must target the missiles. I hope I can. And that's why I really think the tower is symbolic, because he says, our place is down there in the metro, and that he's trying to ascend the heavens. And when he gets up to the top, what is the knowledge? What does he learn? And what he learns is nothing. He sees the bleak world beneath him, and he knows that he's the only one. His people, mankind, are the ones to blame. That's what that knowledge gives him. That's how we're going to end the video. I kind of wanted to make it anticipatory. I must make it. I must stay sane. I must target the missiles. I hope I can. And this story about hope, this story about conquering all odds, I'd rather leave it in limbo. I'd rather do the game justice and not answer the question. Because this game was really something special. It really captured my imagination, captured my mind and my heart, and I really loved this game. That's why I wanted to show you and everybody listening.
What I found interesting about this was when they were talking about just the different factions and all of that, it was really reminded me in some ways, like currently what's going on in the world. I just found it very interesting that there was that theme. But I found that very interesting. I felt some of it was very real. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I just think the whole thing about there was always this hope, which I love hope, you know that.
Yeah, of course.
But I just felt some of it was like very relevant, especially in the beginning, and just talking about the different types of people, different groups, and that's kind of where we are now, divided, and we're all in different groups and categories, and trying to become one, like human versus groups.
And it's so obvious here that we've got higher priorities.
Yes.
It's maybe more easier to see or what have you.
And it's interesting too that the game takes on that even in, everything is kind of destroyed and desperate and people are still dividing. It's just very interesting.
I find that very interesting too.
Is that human nature? What is that? It's just very interesting. You would think at that point that everybody would come together, and
as we have like 3 scraps of food left, you wouldn't turn your back on that, but instead,
Yeah, very interesting.
One thing that I really like about the end of this game is you ascend a tower, and I think it really acts as a metaphor for a lot of things. One, it's your understanding of the new world around you, and two, as you climb this tower, it's kind of like humanity's last physical grip on this world. It's rickety, it's falling apart, and sure, it acts as a story mechanic that you have to get to the top of the tower, but it's also humanity on its last legs.
Alright, well, that was very cool. I really liked it. It was interesting, just the heck of it was, like, it's weird, it's so bleak and so hopeless, and yet there's still this theme of hope running through it, which I love. But it was very good. Thank you so much. But, well, please subscribe. Thank you, and good night.
Thank you, and good night.